First shot hit me right underneath the chin, and it came out my neck. We don't get into this career to get shot, okay? But you never know what's gonna happen. So I will tell you what helps. This letting people know about your story.
Welcome back, listeners and watchers out there, or viewers on YouTube. We're back with Blue Grit Podcast. We've got two special guests. Special. Yeah, absolutely VIP. Clayton, want to introduce them?
We got Mike Gomez, Tmpa Field Services Supervisor's been here 16 years? 17 years.
Lost count.
Are you an official chef yet? Has it been like notarized? Like, has it been recognized?
No. I get called that a lot, but I don't claim. I know better to claim it, and they'll expect too much.
And we have Joey Sepulveda.
It's Sepulveda.
Sepulveda. If you're Cajun, it's
Sepulveda.
Joey Sepulveda. He's got an incredible story. We're excited to share with you guys, and fortunate to have him. He served on the board, and we're fortunate to have him now in field services, working as a field rep, and a part of this family that we have.
Yep. It's been a pleasure having you on, dude.
Thank you.
You just hit your first year mark, right?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, November 1st was my year, so I passed probation. Thank you very much.
Actually, he got extended.
Mike wants to chime in. I can feel it.
No more DREs to complete.
No. So this is a very, very, just not a unique story. You really had a brush with death. And I know the day that it happened, it took us all by surprise, and it was just like, man, and you never think it's going to be you, but then you never think it's going to be one of your colleagues. And you serving on the board, you were a full-time cop working at Balcones Heights, and this is about that incident and how you overcame it, what the response was from this organization, but just overall kind of what all happened that day and what led up to that. So you want to kind of kick off where you grew up, how you got into law enforcement, really how you got involved with TMPA, and then we'll just kind of flow into to that day.
Flow. Yeah, real quick. I was born and raised in San Antonio.
So you were born first?
I was born first.
Okay.
All right,
and then I was raised in San Antonio.
Is it San Antonio or San Antonio?
Well, it all depends on which side of town, because it's either San Antonio or San Anto or just San Antonio. So it all depends on where you're raised there. Was raised pretty much in the south side of San Antonio. Went to Catholic school all my life, pretty much. Middle school, high school, graduated from Holy Cross High School, state champs, class of 91. Thank you very much. And, growing up, I've always wanted to be, I wanted to be a fighter pilot. Back in the day, I guess there was so many criterias that I didn't meet, none. So I decided my second was to be a police officer. Graduating high school, I went a couple of years to college, and then decided to get into the police academy. So after graduating from the police academy, I was hired with Chavana Park. It's a small little municipality north of San Antonio.
How old were you when you got out of the academy?
Let's see, 91, and I became a police officer in 93. Okay. So probably about 24, 25 maybe, okay. I think. I started, of course, patrol. My second year into law enforcement, I was kind of sort of recruited by a ANTS, which was Alamo Air Narcotic Task Force, and went into narcotics. Spent about 6.5 years there. Had a critical incident then. I was involved in a shooting.
Assigned to the task force.
Assigned to the task force. Yes, sir.
So you were a TFO?
No. That was a state. So basically, it was under the governor's office back in the day.
Oh, I was just trying to get a jab at Clint from TFO. But if it's cool, that's for a whole separate another.
Oh no.
story.
I'll tell you a little bit more about it.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
So then, after my incident, the chief called me back, so I stayed on patrol for a little bit, and then I went and spent a couple of years working Edgewood ISD, and lasted there for about 2.5, maybe 3 years. Then I got hired with Balcones Heights. Then from Balcones Heights, I was on the streets on patrol, and then a couple of years after that, I started the first K-9 unit there in Balcones Heights. So while I was a K-9 unit, I worked very closely with a whole bunch of narcotic units, Bexar County, San Antonio, and I started working real closely with DEA. So I guess it wasn't me, it was my dog who got me a chance to be a TFO.
Oh, there it is. TFO.
Yeah, I was waiting. Punchline. Thank you.
So, Malinois or Shepherd?
So I started off the K-9 unit with a golden lab.
Okay.
And her name was Nella. And she literally put me on the map in all Bexar County.
Okay.
The only thing I was pretty much a driver and the person who held on to the lead, because she did everything. They even told me that, hey, if she had thumbs, she really didn't need you.
If they could teach her to drive
If
the
they
squad.
could teach her a squad car, yeah, absolutely. So got me into DEA as a TFO. Was there for 6.5 years. During my time at DEA, I went from a lab to a Czech Shepherd. I also worked a Belgian Mal as on the patrol side. So I had Nella, which was a lab as a narcotics, and then a Mal, which was patrol. That's the way back in the day. It was a separate kind of a thing. Once they both retired, I was allowed to get another dog, and it was a dual-purpose dog, which it was a Czech Shepherd. So it was named Banderas.
AKA crazy.
Yeah, he's very crazy.
I've heard dogs take after the handler.
Yes, very much so.
Oh, absolutely.
Look like him too.
I know, actually, he's photogenic. I'm not. So I spent 6.5 years with DEA. Man, I traveled just about everywhere in the state of Texas with the task force. They called me back to my department. So I was on patrol with my dog for probably about a year. And it was time to start moving up and promoting. So I went and I got promoted to detective or investigator there in my department. Spent 2 or 3 years doing that. And then I got promoted to sergeant, patrol sergeant. So I was a patrol sergeant, went from nights to mids, then to morning. And then on February the 3rd, 2021, come to find out later on that it was my 18th anniversary with my department. On that day, it was not gloomy. It wasn't, thundering and all this other stuff. It was a nice sunny day. It was about 1:20, almost 1:30. My shift ended up at 2:00. So I'll back up a little bit on that. That was during COVID. So most of my shift was out because of COVID, people getting sick, people not feeling right. So I had asked one of the mid-shift guys, who was a brand new officer. I said, "Hey, would you like to help me on my shift and cover my shift?" His days off started off Thursdays and Fridays. So I said, "Hey, you know what? You come in, you work early, get off at 2, and you start your RDs early." Man, young kid, Sarge, I got you, man. Don't worry about it. I'll be here. Awesome. Got my shift covered. 1:30, get a call. Suspicious vehicle, suspicious people at an apartment complex. One of our known troublesome apartment complexes there in Balcones Heights. So I was like, you know what? I got it. I'm not going to wait. I'm going to have this kid. He helped me out. I'm going to go to the call. So I take off. While I'm going to the call, dispatch gets on the radio and gets bumped up from a suspicious vehicle, suspicious person call to possible burglars in action. And the suspect vehicle is described to be a white-colored Ford Dually. And I was like, white-colored Ford Dually. We had prior information that this white Dually had been burglarizing vehicles before. Of course, the occupants. So I stepped it up. I turned on my lights, broke through a light, and I'm hauling us. Am I allowed to?
Yeah,
You can say hauling.
Okay. So I'm getting there, code 3. My partner, who gets stuck at the light because of traffic, stays behind probably about 30, 40 seconds behind me. So I get there. I tell the dispatcher, hey, I'm entering this location. I'm entering this entryway. I'm coming up to the back rear parking lot, and I see the suspect vehicle. So it's kind of weird, and a lot goes along with the story. But so I park my vehicle, and for some reason, the vehicle that where I parked, your dash cam is supposed to be pointing straight forward. Well, for some reason, somehow, I do not remember, but the camera is canted to where it's catching everything of the suspect vehicle. So I approach the vehicle on the driver's side.
And your mindset at this point is probably car burglars. I'm about to
Absolutely.
interact with car burglars. Okay.
Absolutely. So when I approach the vehicle, I see the driver and I see a passenger in the rear view. I mean, in the rear seat, right behind the driver. So I get there, and of course, now a little history about me is I'm a firearms instructor. I'm the department's tactical instructor. So I'm trying to do this as best and as tactical as I possibly can. So I get there. I tell the guys, all right, guys, let me see your hands. They both comply. They both stick their hands out of the window. So I'm like, okay, I see where their hands are at. I know what's going on. While I approach the driver, he starts rolling up the window and kind of trying to get the vehicle started, get the truck moving. And I start, of course, giving some verbal commands. Now, mind you, when I'm approaching, I notice a whole bunch of people out in the parking lot. I remember very clearly that I see a husband, I see a wife, and I see them with a hamper full of clothes, doing laundry. And if I'm not mistaken, the mom was pushing a stroller. So I'm like, okay, I've got civilians out here. So once the driver starts making evasive movements, and I take out my taser. Now, I will tell you, the old Joey back in the day, that taser wouldn't come out. It would have been my gun. But you know how the things that we have to go through in law enforcement nowadays is, okay, if I take out my weapon now, here comes the cameras.
Yeah, the progression.
Yeah. Here goes, oh, look at the cop being aggressive with, showing off his gun. So anyways, I approach the driver with my taser, and he starts making movements to try to get away. And I tell the driver, don't do it. So I lose focus on the subject in the back seat. I get tunnel vision and focus on the driver.
Are you at the rear of the vehicle, or are you
I'm
kind
at the
of
driver.
elbow out?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So when I'm approaching in an angle from the rear, and going up to the driver.
But you're at the driver window right now.
But I'm at the driver window. So it's a dually. So I get up on the step, the side step, and I start kind of getting into a physical altercation with the driver. He's backing up because I'm showing him the taser. Of course, he's got a little red dot on him. He knows what's about to happen. I lose focus on the rear passenger. So all I see is his hands come up. As I see his hands come up, I take a real quick glance over, and it's a barrel. And all I hear is a pop. And first shot hit me right underneath the chin, and it came out my neck. So at that point in time, the first thing that came out of that came to my head was like, this SOB just shot me. So I'm backing up. I throw my taser. I don't even holster it. I throw it on the ground. I'm reaching for my gun. And I can't tell you how many pops I heard, but I heard pops. And
He's still in the back left seat.
Yes.
Firing out the window.
He's firing out the window. So from later on finding out, I take a shot and it hits my trauma vest. So it spins me in an angle because he double taps, and the second one goes through my shoulder, comes out my back. So at that time, I'm like, this guy's not even giving me a chance. So I start retreating. I head back. I'm looking, man, where's the cover? And there's a tree. About that big. And have you ever seen the movie Mall Cop?
Yeah.
Paul Bart, when he's trying to slide through? Well, that was me, except I didn't make it. So I'm squirreling back into cover. So while I'm at cover, I see the rear seat suspect coming out, and he extends out the window and shoots one final shot. And the only thing I could do was cover my face, and that's where the fourth one hit me. Now, according to the report, they say that he shot over 7 times, possibly with two calibers, a 40 and a 9mm. I remember when I was shot, I can hear my partner coming. And the one thing that I didn't want to do, because I was probably I wanted to engage from where I was sitting down. The only thing that came to my mind is, I don't know where my partner is. And I would hate to go and get into a crossfire with him and me ending up, hurting him.
Well, and you had civilians out there.
And I had civilians out there. So, people ask me all the time, man, all of that just happened like that.
So the first couple of shots, he's in the back of the vehicle, shooting out the window, and you said the last shot, he had exited the vehicle and...
No, he extended outside of the window.
Okay.
Yeah. And that I can see very, very clearly. So, come to find out, well, not come to find out, but my partner at the time, he had prior paramedic experience. He was a EMT paramedic before he joined the force with us. And let me tell you, this kid was on the streets for 18 months. 18 months. This kid had seen drive-by shootings, a female young lady get killed by a drive-by. He arrested some guy who shot his neighbor at another apartment complex. In 18 months, this kid's seen more than probably most of our members out there that been here for 20 plus years. He didn't hesitate. He grabbed me. He got me by the collar on my vest and pulled me out, pulled me towards or at least tried to. This kid pulled me so hard that he pulled the vest completely off of me. Now, I was told, whether it's true or not, that if he hadn't pulled my vest out, I wasn't going to be able. Everything, my lungs and my throat were just done. So he starts screaming out for help. 2 civilians come in. One of them was a maintenance man. The other guy was a resident there. So they literally picked me up, carried me like a Superman to my patrol unit. And they carried me there and were trying to shove me in the back seat. And as you can see, I'm not a small kind of a guy. It was like shoving a football. So, somewhere where they're not supposed to. So and if people know who I am, I got to the point where my attitude came out, and I was like, let me the fuck down so I can get in the seat by myself.
Before y'all kill me.
Yeah, basically. So sure enough, they put me in the patrol car, and my partner he drove me to the hospital.
And at this point, the suspect vehicles then fled the scene.
He had fled the scene. My partner was able to take one shot, and apparently, come to find out, that shot went through the rear window and hit the driver on the shoulder. But yeah, he fled the scene. I'm getting transported to the nearest hospital, which was like less than a mile away. I get to the hospital, and from my recollection, I thought that all I remember is this big, huge nurse, and I'm thinking, man, I thought he carried me in. Come to find out later on, we became very good friends, and we stay in contact. He says, Joey, you walked your butt in by yourself.
Wow.
He says, all you were doing was you're holding your neck. And I'm like, really? He goes, yeah. So they put me in a room. Of course, they start, doing and working on me. I had, if I'm not mistaken, a total of 9 people working on me at one time. So on the wall, they have, the little lights and the suction cups and the suction and all that. Well, the nurse tells me, I grabbed the suction, and I'm trying to suck the blood off of me. And I'm like, wait a minute, this thing's not working. I said, can you turn this shit on? So they turned it on, and I actually became another hand and we're helping out. So after that.
And at this point, you were shot how many times at the hospital?
Honestly, to tell you the truth, Tyler, I do not remember. At that point in time, all I remember is I got shot here. I didn't even think about my arm, and I didn't even know about my shoulder.
Yeah.
I really didn't. So I'm thinking, okay, this is the only one. This is the one I got to worry about. So while I'm sitting there, I see my partner. My partner's kind of like in the doorway, and I could see him in shock. And that was one of the things that I got enough voice and enough courage to say, get him out of here. I don't want him to see, if this is going to be my time, I don't want him to remember me like this. Mm. So they finally took him, some other people took him, and they took him to triage and had him checked out, and they made him also do the whole 9 yards, get off the vest and to make sure that he wasn't shot without him knowing.
Him seeing how seriously concerned he was about you, did that cause you to realize maybe I'm worse off than I'm realizing?
No, honestly, I didn't. That never even came to my head. A lot of things that came to my mind was home, work. This is going to be a long-ass report.
So the last person that we had on was involved in a horrific shooting and said in the middle of the gunfight, they remember thinking, I went on a concern for welfare, now I'm in a gunfight. How the hell do I write this up?
That's honestly.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to, Dear Chief,
And
no
the
one was
interesting-
more surprised.
Yeah, and the interesting fact is he just got a probably a good point. Like, you know, you said you the old Joey would have went straight to your gun, because at that point you can't see his hands. He's using a vehicle to leave. You don't know that
They're more than likely criminals because you have prior information.
Oh, absolutely.
well, and it's the Ferguson effect of what we dealt with soon after the incident in Ferguson. But the prior guest, Curly, I mean, it was even him thinking that, because you're trying to justify in your mind of all the stuff you're going through, because we're police are scrutinized and we're kind of called to the carpet a lot of times, and that's prior to that. That's back in 2002. So
yeah.
anyway,
No, and you're absolutely right. And the thing about it is also being a supervisor is you're always constantly trying to teach these young officers that hey, the whole community policing, the customer service, kind of be nice, cordial. You can't do this, you can't do that. And then for you as a supervisor to go and do the opposite of what you actually are teaching. Anyways, so I'm there at the hospital, and all I remember is, of course, one of the nurses says, the doctor tells one of the nurses, cut his belt. And I swear to you, I remember this, and I'm like, don't cut my belt. That's expensive. That comes from my pocket. Wait a minute. So I stand up, I take off my own belt, my keepers, everything, and I hand over my gun belt to one of the nurses. And I remember the doctor saying, "Okay, Sarge, we're going to give you something to knock you out." And I said, "Well, hurry the up." And I'm out.
Is your arm, because you were shot good in your arm, was your arm still operating? Were you still able to use it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. As a matter of fact, when my partner approached me, I still had my gun. I mean, it was death grip. You could not get that thing off of me. And he even told me, he goes, "Put your gun away. Put it away." So I actually was able to holster my own weapon, put it on lock, and go
It's
from there.
amazing with the damage that you took that it still functioned.
Yeah, yeah. I have some video, and that I will tell everybody, hey, this is my these are my party fave pics to show at parties. So this was actually a full hole, and every time I move my fingers, you can see each tendon moving the fingers.
But still fully
Fully functioning.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you and your partner at the scene, did he make the determination on his own to load and go?
Yes. Yeah.
and he's 18 months in.
18 months
Had
in.
that situational awareness.
Yep. And that's what I give. I mean, honestly, I give him so much credit for me being here, because he didn't hesitate. I know he was scared. I know that, a lot of things were probably going through his head. But for him to make that decision and say, "No, I'm not going to wait for EMS."
Is he still on the job today?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Do you mind a shout out from you?
Oh, no. Edgar Ortiz, we call him Baby O. Hey, brother. I love you, man.
Shout out to
I'm
Ortiz.
always thinking about you. And we still stay in touch.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you've been shot four times.
Mm-hmm.
They knock you out at the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, they transport you.
Mm-hmm.
What to what hospital?
So I went to Texan Heart Hospital, which is not a trauma 1 hospital. So basically what they did is they just tried to stop the bleeding. They wrapped me, what do you call that?
Intubate.
Intubate. As a matter of fact, when they were moving me from one gurney to the stretcher, that's when they noticed the shoulder wound. They're like, "Oh, we got another hole. We got to stop him before he goes out." So I had already gone through like 5-6 pints of blood.
Wow.
At that time, and so of course, I I get there. I get to, they transport me. Now, while I'm in what we call the box, the ambulance en route, I woke up twice. And, you know, this is one thing about this career and the brotherhood that we have. I find out later that there was like literally 50 to 60 law enforcement officers on scene. And I'm talking everything from city, county, ISD, constables, federal, my U.S. Marshal buddy, Jesus Mejia. I love that kid to death. He's another one that was there for me and my family. Everybody was out there. You know, we may not all get along, but when you hurt one of us,
Yep, mess with one family member, you mess with everybody.
that's exactly right. All right, and I believe that. I really do believe that. So, anyways, I wake up and they tell me you were still in the fight. You were grabbing, you were pulling, you were punching, and we had to knock you out again. So by the time I got to BAMC, I think that's when, by that time, I think phone calls were made and they got a hold of Mike, my significant other at the time. She's still my significant other.
You
better edit that one.
They got a hold of Mike, my significant other.
She actually, I had told her if anything were to happen to me, whether I'm right, wrong, or whatever, call Mike. Don't call anybody else. Call Mike. And I think Mike was coming home from somewhere, and he had down, and he was right there.
So Anna called you, Mike, and told you what happened?
Yeah, I just, Jenny and I, we just come back from Brownsville, so we had a good 6-hour drive. We just gotten home, actually upstairs unpacking, and Anna never calls me. If she needs something or she wants to tell me off, she texts me, and so when I saw the caller ID, I said, well, this ain't good, and so sure enough, I just had a feeling. I answered the phone, and she's screaming, yelling, and it was effing Joey got shot. She was mad at him for getting shot. She was pissed off, and I'm trying to get information out of her, but she has nothing. I know the department tried to send vehicles for her. She's like, no, I'll get there faster than them coming to get me, because she was a good hour away. And so I look up at Jen and I said, and I don't know, it's just because of years of law enforcement experience. I just say, hey, Joey got shot. I got to go. And she's just like, she's freaked out. She's screaming. What? I go, yeah, Joey got shot. I got to go. I don't know what time I'll be back. Can you pack me a go bag real quick? Because we had just gotten back, so everything was, not ready to go. And she's like, well, I'm coming with you. I go, you sure? She wants to go this. I don't know when I'm coming back. I'm going with you. I'm going with you. So we don't grab anything, went downstairs, got in the truck, and she'd always talked about wanting to go on a ride along, and not after this drive. I think she had enough of that drive because she was pretty tense. And we're coming from North Austin, all the way down 35 because there was no other way to go, straight to BAMC. And of course, when we get there,
The BAMC is in what?
Military.
Is that the military? What
Yes.
military base is it?
Well, actually, it's not it's an Army base hospital, but it's not. I don't even think it's actually on an Army base, is it?
No, it's the property. It's government property.
Right.
It's
Okay.
universal. But, so, that was the frustrating part because Arnold's already there. We're there, but we can't get in. It won't let anybody in.
COVID.
Unless you're in a police car. So, after some creative thinking, there was enough black and whites going in and out. So we jumped in the back seat of one of them, and we got in. And at this time, President Joe Tovar had also arrived. So we went in, and we were the only ones who would come could come in and see Joey. To see him the way he was, was a shock at first, but I still got some good pictures. Took advantage of the moment. Okay, he lives through this, and we're gonna laugh about it someday. And I've got those pictures on reserve for that perfect day. But it was a traumatic in a way that, I've been on scenes before where officers have been shot, but they weren't friends. They weren't buddies of any sort. They weren't people I just hung out with the week before. So it was totally different. And then, most of I drive a 3/4 ton truck. Well, they govern out at about 90 miles an hour. That was the more frustrating part. I hated my truck after that. But, we got there safe, and then we had a little hiccup getting in. The ones where we're in, all the other officers managed to get in also, one way or another. And he had plenty of support. I don't know if he knew it, but outside that hospital, there's plenty of people there. And if you're looking at the news, there was hundreds of agency or officers, probably 20 agencies, and they were canvassing everywhere. It took him a couple of days to find the first suspect because he actually crossed the border and went to seek medical attention from his wound, and that's where they picked him up at. We just, all you could do now is just be there for Anna. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
She had media wanting to talk to her. They were asking the mayor for a statement. They were asking the chief for a statement. The good thing about all that stuff is they were reverting everything over to me because Anna says they talked to Mike and nobody else. If we're going to give a statement, Mike's going to give it. And we weren't ready to say anything, so they just had to wait. So they focused more on the suspects and the manhunt.
It wasn't Joey's recovery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what's fascinating is you just kind of hit a great point. Yes, they hadn't hung out with Joey, or you've been to multiple shootings as Clint and I have. I mean, we all have now as field reps. But the reality is that even though you knew Joey, you do this for all the members really in our region. When an officer down call goes out, and I'll say this, we really don't give a damn what their membership looks like with us.
Yeah.
We just go ahead and start heading that way anyway because it's the right thing to do. But, I mean, I think, you and Joey are really tight. And for Anna to call you and say, hey, here's the situation, and I think the comfort of knowing that you were coming, and Anna has expressed that before, just really how much it meant, and for you to be standing there with you guys. Because I think DPS actually escorted, because where Anna works at, in her involvement with DPS, they were able to provide, the escort. And I believe DPS thought it was a trooper that might have been shot.
Yeah, on my I don't know what you call it. There's a name for the paperwork when
face sheet or
the face sheet. There you go. It had an alias name, of course, and it put their state trooper. So I just got promoted, guys. Super trooper. But yeah, and there was several of troopers that were that actually escorted the stretcher in while they were bringing me into to the hospital. So big shout out to those guys out there. They were there for everybody, and at that point in time, like I said earlier, it's we don't care what patch or what uniform or what agency you're from. We're all one family.
Yeah. And I want to address one raging rumor really quick, just the elephant in the room. Mikey said that when you needed blood and had run out, you were demanding Bloody Mary, not blood. You were wanting Tito's Bloody Mary. And Mike said it. I didn't know if it's true, but I wanted to get it from you if that was.
Let me tell you, Clint, I'll tell you what, man. If I could, I would be asking for an old fashioned or something, man, because, it's just, what you go through, you honestly, at least I could say from my end, is I didn't care too much about what happened to me. I was, hey, it was everybody else. I was worried about my partner. I was worried about my job. I was worried about, who's going to take care of the household?
Yeah.
Well, I would have helped you there part time.
So yeah, it's you know, and of course, waking up a day and a half later from an induced coma, you wake up and I didn't know where I was at, of course, and I start wanting to pull things off or whatever. And when I finally got okay and everybody came in and everybody saw me and I was okay, just the support that I had on my phone, I had over 1,300 texts. And let me tell you how far that support stretched out. So I had officers that I had met at conferences, training, whatever, and hey, brother, I met you at some conference out in so-and-so, and we met one time, and I heard what happened, and prayers, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. If you need anything, that person could be standing right in front of me, and I wouldn't know who he was.
But you probably don't understand the network that you reached. You were on a state task force. You were on the DEA task force. Your canine network that you established, working narcotics. The folks that work dope are pretty tight.
Yes.
And you said you worked across states, so you probably didn't consciously realize the effect you had on other folks. And you do it here, you do it with our members, but the network that you established, you just got proof of it and got shown it on your phone that
Absolutely.
day with 1,300 texts. That's
Absolutely.
freaking awesome.
Absolutely.
So we've had some other guests on that have been in shootings, and they've talked about it, and we visit about. Do you recall every moment of your shooting? Are there some scenes from the reel that you don't recall? And did you realize throughout the gunfight that you were pretty good? You thought you were only shot here, or were there times where you thought, I'm low sick, this is really bad, or did you feel like you were pretty good through most of it?
No, I felt pretty good. Your body does amazing things. You don't realize it until something like this happens. And as for knowing and remembering every little thing, I don't. Again, I don't remember getting shot in my trauma vest. Now, I viewed the video before, and as a matter of fact, Anna reviewed the video with me.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And she stood right there. And she's the one that caught, and she goes, every time you got hit, you groaned. You made a noise. I was like, really? Played it back. Sure enough, every time I was getting hit, that's all you would hear.
You do the same thing when I tickle you.
Well, that's and you don't realize that.
No.
You don't, you know, and then, you know, there's a couple of scenes where, or a couple of, I have screenshots. Like, when the first shot came, I literally saw the bullet. It was like slow motion. I'm serious. It was like the Matrix.
That's exactly what somebody else had mentioned about a shooting. They saw the spinning of the bullet.
The
they saw
spinning, the shell, and you think about it and you're like, that's bull. That's just in my head.
Was that the first round?
That was the first round.
You remember seeing it in the casing ejecting out the
Yes,
top?
I did. Everything, like I said, was slow motion.
Did you hear it? So auditory exclusion. Usually, the first thing that goes is auditory exclusion. Do you remember hearing any of that?
All I heard was a pop. It didn't affect my hearing. It didn't, because I can hear. I can hear them screaming. I can hear the background. I can hear people in the back like, what the hell's going on? You know, holy shit, shots. So I didn't lose the hearing. Again, everything was in slow motion. Same thing with this one. I don't know how or why. All I remember is me putting my hand in my on my face.
How
Like
far
if-
was that shot that made you think you should defend it?
Probably about a good 15 yards, maybe a little less, maybe about 10 yards. I'm giving too much. About 10 yards, but you can actually I could see the barrel. I noticed, or I told myself, man, he's shooting at my face. He's shooting at my head. So all I remember is doing this, and I could see where it went, hit, didn't feel it, and move forward. I mean, I was still on my hands and knees. I was able to get up. Like I said, my hands were still functioning. I don't remember. I do remember in the car and at the hospital just spitting out blood. And that's because everything was swelling. So it was me gasping or trying to get some air.
Yeah. So your gunfight was super fast, super horrific, close range, shot in the face. Your recovery, I mean, if folks didn't know about it, they would never know you've been in it, and you've handled it like Superman. Do you think being involved in a prior critical incident helped that, or are they just completely separate and unrelated? Do you think you've managed this well, or is that just who Joey is, and you go through it and you pick yourself up and going down the road, and it is what it is? Or
Well, I will tell you that I should have been a little bit off for work a little longer.
this one or your first one?
Both of them. My first involved shooting when I was at the state task force. I give credit to those guys. I went through the investigation. They gave me 2 days. Go home, relax. But you have the choice. You come back to work, or you could take as much time as you want. I came back to work. As a matter of fact, the day that I came to work, we planned a search warrant. And I remember the commander at the time told me, like, can you do me a favor and not shoot anybody? It's like, okay. Don't make any promises, but I'm going to try. And I think that helped.
Getting back on the horse.
Back on the horse. Having that confidence in my guys and my leadership, saying, hey, you know what? You did your job. You did good. Come back to work.
Yeah.
Of course, nowadays it's not as easy. So many policies now is like, hey, no, you're at administrative leave until this investigation is over, even though it was a good shoot, even though you did what you had to do.
Yeah.
I got home, and this was during Snowmageddon. So I'm literally a couch potato on a recliner for a couple of weeks. I had to return back because when they left me, or they took me home the first time, it was actually sewed up, this wound, and I got a staph infection. So, and I had to load me up in my truck and drive, and it took almost 2 hours from my property go back to Bamsey because it was snow. And they opened it up, they cleaned it out, and they left it open so it can heal from the inside out. That's what they should have done in the beginning. But anyways, and I have the dates on everything. I went back to work 2.5 months after my incident. It was 2.5 months. And, one of the biggest things during my incident, during the shooting, is I would always tell the guys while we train in firearms and rifled and tactics is don't give up. Don't give up. And that's what I kept telling myself during my whole incident. Don't give up. Don't let these guys see you give up. Fight through it. I know that, I was, I guess you could say, tired. I wanted to just sit there and just let this all be over. I'm done. And I kept on telling myself, no, don't give up. And it's a mindset. It's a mindset that you have to tell yourself, stay in the fight. Whether you're losing or you're winning, stay in the fight.
So that's in the middle of it. That's in the middle of the gunfight, a mindset. What about an officer that got shot last week or gets shot, injured bad this week? As somebody who's been super resilient, what would Joey share with them about working through after being involved in a shooting and getting shot? Post, not during the gunfight, but how's Joey's been so resilient? What would you share with them?
So I will tell you what helps. This letting people know about your story. A lot of people are like, hey, I don't want to bring back memories. No, it's good for us. It's good to share. One of the things that that I take from this whole incident is we don't get into this career to get shot, okay? But you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
Whether it's daylight, mids, or graveyard. I worked every shift you can possibly imagine, even a power shift. When you put on that uniform, you put on that vest, and you put on that gun and that shield, you never know if you're going to come back or what's going to happen. Sometimes we get complacent, and it's that thing about, oh, it's just another day. I'll be back, babe. See you later. I'll be home at 2:30. You never know. That day, my partner was supposed to leave at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. He did not leave until 4 o'clock in the morning, the following morning. You just never know.
Yep.
Well, what would the 22-year-old Joey, Clint likes to kind of talk about this, what would you tell somebody that's just now entering law enforcement of your long, extensive history and experience? What would you tell somebody, the 22-year-old kid just starting on patrol? What advice would you share with them after everything that you've been through?
Look, I'm going to tell you, we get into this career. It's not for glory. It's not for, we're not going to get rich out of it. But to me, it's very honorable. When you go out there, every person that you come across, of course, treat them with respect. Treat them like you're dealing with one of your family. But at the end of the day, just watch your back. Don't get complacent. Don't get comfortable. I think a lot of some of the new guys that I would train as a FTO, it's I'm a 22, 10 feet tall and bulletproof, and it's not like that anymore. It's not. I think all of us here, when we started, it's nothing like that nowadays, and that's just the reality. This is what we live. This is a daily. How can I say? Daily cycle that you have to go through in this career nowadays. But I will tell you that when you become a police officer, you just join the biggest gang that you will ever imagine. So,
for closure to our listeners, we see Joey today. Joey's doing well. Joey and Anna are doing great and healthy, and your backup still out there protecting and serving. But for closure to the listeners, driver caught in Mexico, shot, trying to get treatment. What about the shooter?
Shooter got caught 2 days later. He was hiding out at a apartment complex.
Like a coward.
Yeah, and so the one thing that I will say that when I woke up from my coma, one of the few things that I couldn't speak. So I kept on asking for something to write on, and I actually, it's still with the investigators. I wrote down, "What about the shooter?" And Anna kept on telling me, they're looking for him, this and that. They still haven't found him, but blah, blah, blah. They're getting leads, this, that. All I put there was dreadlocks. The guy who shot me had dreadlocks. And he had, I don't know if you remember back in the day, the old eyebrows with the
notching the eyebrow.
Yeah, exactly. So I put there that too. I put, tracks on the eyebrow. So 2 days later, Bexar County, I give Sheriff Salazar and his guys kudos. They were on it like, white on rice. As a matter of fact, the head lead investigator that was in charge of the team was my ex-DEA boss, Nancy Sanford. She's their chief in charge of special crimes. She stayed up 48 hours on command post, just on coffee.
Wow.
Yeah. And anyways, he had changed his color. He shaved himself. So he no longer have dreadlocks. The only thing that he couldn't change was the eyebrow. So some of their special crime unit guys and SWAT, Bexar County SWAT, they got information where he was staying at. They waited for him to come out of the apartment complex, and they actually took him down, going to supposedly go get cigarettes. When they caught the shooter, he still had a 9mm in his fanny pack, some meth, and he did not put up a fight.
Of course not.
Yeah. So as of right now, there's a lot of stuff that is still, or I can't speak of, because it's still under. They're still in county jail, but we haven't gone to court, or we haven't gone anything. And I understand it's going to be, this February will be 2 years since the incident. So,
wow,
we're still waiting.
Mikey, as a companion officer, we talk a lot about being a good companion officer when you show up to a partner that's been shot. And we've all been to a lot of shootings, but showing up to one where it's your friend, what would you share with others that may have to pull up and be a companion officer to a good friend that's just been shot bad?
It's a little more difficult because, you're there, I would say, in a work capacity. You're focused on what needs to be done because you've been to so many. But when it's personal, it's a little different because you're trying to stay focused and not show any, emotions, because you have a wife there who doesn't know what's going to happen. You have family members, you have officers standing outside that are going to see the reaction of your face when you walk out of that room. The best thing that I can tell you is concentrate on one thing and stay focused, because the emotions on your face send a lot of messages.
It's a great point.
And you've got to, we can all do it. We do it every day at work. We can all just control that and just stay focused.
I like it.
It's a remarkable story, and it's just under 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you're sitting beside me. You damn sure could have died that day.
Yeah.
When that email went out that you were shot, it sent chills down me, and I know just everybody with Tmpa was just because it happened to somebody you know.
I think it's the only
board member
to have been shot in the line of duty that we've had.
Yeah, I think so. As far as I can remember.
I think we've had some been involved in shootings. I don't think we've had a board member shot.
Yeah. Well, this about wraps it up. We're gonna fire some questions off. I'm hoping you guys can answer one. That's my favorite.
Oh Lord,
here we go.
There we go.
Right.
Rapid fire, 3 questions.
Yeah.
Best cop movie or line from a cop movie, best patrol vehicle, and best whiskey.
Lethal Weapon right there.
Lethal Weapon. That's a good, and that's probably the most common answer we got.
Movie or line from it?
No Way You Live.
I say Lethal Weapon too, but the first one. And
The first one. Oh, the first Lethal Weapon.
yeah.
He said Lethal Weapon 2, the first one.
Did I say
2, the first
no,
one?
no, no.
Yeah.
Lethal Weapon also.
Yeah, Lethal Weapon also.
All right.
And yes. But the first one. And
Best patrol vehicle.
best patrol vehicle? Man. Mad Max's patrol vehicle. What? Hey,
That.
you don't remember that?
It's a movie.
Oh. What's the best patrol vehicle you ever drove?
Oh, geez, I have to. Oh, man, I would have to say the Shamu,
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Caprice?
The Shamu.
the Capri,
My man.
Yep.
the
All right.
Caprice.
Like 95
Yes,
model?
what was it?
we
The
were friends.
LT1 or
Yeah,
what?
LT1
It had the LT1, the Corvette engine in it.
Tyler's going to pout because every other guest has said Shamu, the Crown Vic.
The Crown Vic.
So he's going to be really upset. My man. My man.
Y'all talk
I was
about
told
this
they do
prior.
151 miles an hour. I was told. I don't know that, but I was told that they do 150.
I did witness one do pretty close to that, then it caught on fire.
Chief, there I was. I have
No idea. No one was more surprised than I
Nobody
was.
was more surprised than yeah.
And then, as in bourbon, it all depends on.
Who's paying?
Yeah, exactly.
If it's Mikey,
If it's Mikey, well, you know, little pappy here and there, you know. No, but honestly, Angel's Envy.
Oh, my. 2 out of 3, baby.
it is. Yeah, somebody else's.
Love you long time,
Yeah.
Joey.
Angel's Envy makes me do some crazy stuff.
Have you tried the Angel's Envy rye?
No, I have not.
Oh, yeah.
I probably won't.
That's been common.
It is.
Angel's Envy's been common on this
Ooh,
show.
man, one shot did me in, boys, and I ain't gonna do it again for the sake of my marriage.
I'm sorry, I'm a little old fashioned when it comes to that. I'm still a Jack Daniels guy.
Jack Daniels.
Yeah,
The regular
That's-
one or any certain one?
that's the regular good old
There you
Jack
go.
Daniels.
Gentleman Jack's Brew. I may have one tonight.
Wrong with that.
I had one tonight. Well, again, hit that like button. Hey, subscribe to our channel. Check out the Buzzsprouts website. It's got all the platforms that this podcast is pushed out on. Clinton, you got anything else?
If you want to hear Tyler's Angel Envy story, you can click down in the comments below.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, it's a good one.
We
That's,
appreciate you guys following. We hope the content hits home with you, and you take something from each episode. Give us a subscribe, a like. Please stay safe out there. God bless each of you, your family. Happy New Year. God bless Texas.